The Yala swamp covers an approximate area of 17,500 hectares, inclusive of Lake Kanyaboli, Lake Namboyo, and Lake Sare. The swamp is home to some of the world's most unique flora and fauna.
Yala swamp happened to be a rare resource in Kenya by the virtue that it's a wetland, it has a number of lakes, and then it's in the tropics. This makes the ecosystem to be very rich in fauna, at the same time with flora.
In the 1960s, the Kenyan government reclaimed part of the swamp as a human resettlement area. For any large-scale industrial activity to be implemented, the law requires that an elaborate environmental impact assessment be carried out by independent and approved environmental consultants. The National Environmental Management Authority is charged with this function and issues a license upon study and approval of any project proposal. In May 2004, Dominion signed an MOU with Bondo and Siaya County Councils to lease Yala Swamp for 25 years. In August 2004, the National Environmental Management Authority issued a license for Dominion Farms to rehabilitate and develop a rice irrigation scheme for commercial purposes at the Yala Swamp. After study of its environmental impact assessment document, the Bondo and Siaya local county councils approved Dominion to carry out rice farming in the area. An initial 2,300 hectares of reclaimed swampland was earmarked for the project. The agreements were negotiated without involvement of the surrounding Bondo, Siaya, and Busia communities, contrary to the provisions of the Trust Lands Act. According to Dominion Farm's initial EIA document, it intends to grow rice on its fields destined for export markets. In the recent past, Dominion Farm began implementing other projects without having been licensed by NEMA. These include the diversion of River Yala to create a dam for hydroelectric power generation, water canals that feed the farm's fields, and cage culture in Lake Kanyaboli. These have been undertaken even before NEMA obtained views from the public and other stakeholders, contrary to the provisions of the Environment Management and Coordination Act of 1999.
The problem about this type of thing, where investors don't declare beforehand the type of activities that they're going to undertake, is that it becomes very difficult to come up with a way of compensating or revenue sharing for the local people, because when you compensate them based on a plan that has been given you to the investor, and then the investor comes up and changes his plans and goes into production of high-value products, that I think is the place where the farmers the producers are really disenfranchised. Affected communities, NGOs, and environment management organizations have come together to uphold people's rights. After careful study of Dominion's environmental impact assessment document, it has become apparent that there would be more damage than gains should the project carry on. The company has totally disregarded the socio-economic benefits and cultural heritage of the surrounding communities.
The first problem which you find with the developers is that they do feel that the resource is idle. But this is where the conflict comes with the local community, because for a long time they have been using that resource economically as a source of food. This is where they go farming. You also find that all the grazing takes place in the wetland.
As a result of the damming project, Dominion has extended its initial approved demarcated boundary and has forcefully erected beacons encroaching into the homesteads surrounding the area. The project has since created a myriad of problems to the surrounding local communities. It's reported the company has used the local administrators to push for their agendas. Yala Dindo narrates one of her many ordeals at the hands of the local administration.
wago koko edo nam kacha ye uru mondo ukonyo nikech nam ikawo to onge kama umbe utieno no nondo na dichiel to kiny ne gibiro gi polise magibiro ne gibiro gimako nyithindago.
The provincial administration is completely dead here, plus the MP is on the other side of the dominion. They leave us here without any protection.
Mary Oware is a widow. She returned home one day from her daily activities to find a beacon irregularly fixed in her compound. Now, the floods have literally washed up to her homestead.
Nasema, mama weka sahi. Mimi nauliza na weka sahi naenda wapi? Wewe nakataa pesa ya msungu? Ndio namwambia mimi. Nakataa pesa ya msungu. Mimi nasema pesa ya msungu ni tamu. Na nitaenda wapi? Ndio masikilizo sisi hakuna na hawa wanasema kama nakataa shauri yako utalia. Na mimi nasema nalia nyamna gani? Hata dio na kisasema kama nakataa kuweka maji taingilia kwa.
The local people have put up a resistance to the investors' compensation process, rejecting the offer as unjust and demeaning.
There must be absolute declaration by investors on what their intentions both now and in the future is going to be, so that when we work out compensation to the local communities, we are factoring in the future potential revenue stream that is going to be derived from those projects and compensate farmers adequately, or producers or local communities. But also I must say that it is important that some of these projects must also bring a lot of the local people on board. They must be participants. They must be active participants and participate not only in the projects but also in the revenue sharing.
For generations, the communities have depended on these wetlands to graze their livestock. Now they are under threat.
The wetland has a unique grass species, and what has happened is that the waters of the river Yala have carried them to the wetland. They have found a very rich ecosystem where they have thrived.
Look at the livestock. They are there. And that is what we depend on. And now the company, the big company, want to kill our livestock. What will help us in future?
Dominion has cleared the indigenous vegetation in the area to give way to the dam. These include homestead fences, grazing and cultivation crops, as well as the swamp papyrus growth. By flooding the demarked area, it would cause the loss of income-generating projects carried out by the locals. Mama Debe is one of the many traders who depend on the papyrus as raw material for handicraft. The floods have since destroyed and caused inaccessibility to the indigenous papyrus. She shares an insight into her mat-making business.
Size maduong kabisa en siling 250. Mano size maduong. Size maluwe biro siling 100, 200. Machako luwe 180. Koro duogo kamano nyako bede e siling 100. Mane mogik matin. Parni e dwe anyalo yudo kata siling 4,000 kata 5,000 e dwe ka nikech odiochieng' anyalo uso kata siling moro 300, 400, 200. Koro en uso mopogre. Uso kang'eyo odiochieng' kaka nyalo wuok godo e odiochieng'.
Mesha Kwere was, until recently, the proud proprietor of this posho mill. The business was the backbone income generator for his family. The mill has since been rendered dysfunctional and inaccessible due to the floods.
And due to the flood, the family has lost the revenue. And while I was checking the machine, I found a lot of damage. I don't think it will operate. And if at all it will operate, it will demand a lot of money and even repairing of the floor. So we are now in a dilemma.
The Dominion project has infringed on property rights and caused more damage to the surrounding community rather than assist in the intended poverty reduction program. Moreover, this will introduce devastating repercussions by causing food insecurity in the region, a phenomena that is absolutely foreign to the locals.
We are people who have mastered their livelihood and nature. We have harnessed our environment to feed us sustainably.
Justo Debe is a local farmer who has been tilling the land since he moved here in 1971. Farming has been his family's source of steady livelihood.
Oduma na yudo gunde 98 oganda na nyalo yudo gunde 20 gi wiye. A lot to koro ne miya benefit maduong' kabisa. Ma nikech ne en gima na nyalo ng'wedo chakre Januar nyaka higa machielo. Koro ne en gima ne konya kendo kanyo ne miyo na nyalo yudo kaka nyithinda chiemo, kaka nyithinda dhi skul, kendo na nyalo yudo kaka na arwakra, kendo na nyalo bedo to gi pesa mondo omi ayud godo ngimana kaka dhi mbele.
Ka pidho kata ka ba wewa cham kende. Ka pidho alot sukuma gi nyanya, dwe kipuo maber nuseka, to nyaka yud gimiluongo kata ni siling 10,000. Iyudo kata siling 10,000 dwe. To minyiewo mana matindo tindo gibenitie.
Pesa hiyo anampa mimi kwa kutoka hapa chini 45,000. Na hii shamba langu mimi napataka chakula kusinda hiyo pesa.
On a larger scale, farmers from Alego area are known to cultivate vegetables and are one of the main suppliers of the local markets, Bondo and Kisumu.
Apuro galot, sukuma, ateri chiro Bondo, ema ngimana duto ema konyaraga kodo. Kendo kar kanyo ok apuro sukuma no kende, apuro nyanya, apuro utungu, apuro oganda, oduma bende apuro ga kuno. Koro kar kanyo ema ngima wa duto konyere. Idwe nyalo loso siling 15,000 manyalo loso.
Tupurie mukela kokone. Kora lodhi nitasepure higni 7. To eni mokonyaga kaka an gi rahia ma onge ng'at marango, eni mokonya gi nyithindogo. Eni matiyo kode onge tich moro yoyote kendo onge ng'ama akuja kakonya makamna lodhi. Koro anta pura ka joma waro gana kuoma.
The Luo community have deep spiritual attachments to their ancestral burial sites. Families bury their deceased and practice specific rituals at specially demarcated areas. Customs dictate the living should not desert the dead. It is even more difficult for widows like Janet Okello who are bound by traditions.
Kata nyathina matho, abenda setho. Nyathina bende niko onyuolo nyithinde, obene gowe ni nyithinde lowono. To nyikwaya go be anego we nyikwaya mandhuhulu na lowoni. Eka kwa be wayude. Joma chon kware wa gidayewa. Ne giweyo eka wege kware wodonje, eka wege wodonje. Eka wabe koro wadonje. En mana lo achiel ni.
Wan kaka waneno chik kiluo. Ne waluoro kama oseyike ng'ato nikech ma en ndalo ma kopo ne chopo to jodalano dhi time misango. To ka koro chopo ni sani koro en koro imuko liendno, nyiso ni jodalano koro onge kata kama ginyalo dhi time misango gimoro kata ginyalo dhi time gir gimoro nikech wuongi no osemuki ma kata kama diging'e kama noyike wuongi koro gikia.
I think it is important that also we vet some of these investors before they come in, and we find out what is their track record in terms of dealing with a lot of issues of human rights. How do they treat people? Similar projects that they have done elsewhere. What's their record? Because a lot of time we have seen government going into agreements on deals, and then before we know it, we are being exposed that these people have a very poor record of human rights. These people have a very poor record of having exploited the local people wherever they were. So the issue of due diligence in terms of looking at investments that come in is very crucial. We don't want investments to come to be approved, licensed, and then by the time we go onto the ground, then a lot of information is coming about the conduct or character of the investors. So this becomes very embarrassing, not only to this country, but to the investors as well, simply because there is no due diligence that has been done to find out the background and the history of these investors.
The wetland could be used by first adopting some of the utilization options which has been already adopted by the local community. Here we are talking of livestock rearing, which currently has the potential of an income of 1.5 billion shillings per year to the local community. The agriculture potential has a capacity of about 2.5 billion. If a good extension system is put in place and marketing system improved, the handcraft could earn the locals a lot of money. Here we are talking of about 13 billion shillings a year.
Kenya did not have an investment act, and I think a couple of 2 years ago the investment act came into place. And the investment act has in a way tried to put in place steps or procedures in which investors can come into this country and invest. If you look at many other areas, how investors are coming in, for example, the multinationals come in to undertake very huge projects in this country, it leaves a lot of room for improvement in the way those investments are structured, because we have seen a lot of indigenous people and local people being locked out